Things are getting spicier revolving the Boston Bruins and the hiring of Marco Sturm, as many new reports are coming out after his first few days as head coach and interviews. We have some very intriguing reports, everything from the news captain to some very interesting quotes about Jeremy Swayman. We're going to be breaking it all down, what Marco Sturm had to say, and why things are getting a bit hot here with this Bruins team. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into it, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already, and you're looking for all of your Bruins news. We got a lot of stuff coming. We have a lot of stuff now regarding this Marco Sturm stuff still to come, but we get towards the end of this month. We have the draft. We have free agency. Things are going to be hot. You won't want to miss it. I'll have it all here for you first. But let's first jump into our first quote from Marco Sturm coming out about Jeremy Swayman. This is what Marco Sturm had to say on the Felger and Maz radio show. The player always dictates, always, how many minutes he's going to play, how many games he's going to play, if he's going to get scratched or not. The player dictates. It's easy on me. If he doesn't play well, then hey, we have another player or another goalie or whatever it is, so that's how I am. Now, this is very interesting, knowing the way that we saw last season really play out for Jeremy Swayman. After a year where he went and signed his contract, we expected quite a bit more, a significant amount more, I'll be honest with you. And we knew at the end of the season that things were not going his way. We stepped off on the wrong foot from those contract negotiations where we saw Swayman, the Bruins, two very different price tags to begin with, eventually met at a price tag, but we really didn't see that start off on a very good way with the way Swayman had played. And I think that this is not directly a big call-out of Jeremy Swayman, but a good indication that we know no matter what your price tag is, no matter who you are, no matter if you're the top player on this team, Marco Sturm is bringing a new mindset to this team that you need to be on top of your game at every point you're in the lineup, or you're not going to be in there. It's simple as that, and I love this from Marco Sturm, kind of starting it out quick, starting it out hot, and we do have another quote here from Marco Sturm going on about the same topic. He says, I know the Pastrnaks, I know the Lindholms, I know the McAvoys. Yes, I've seen them play, but I don't know them as people or as a person. I actually would like to get to know them first. I want to see it. I want to feel it when I work with them every day. Then maybe I don't know yet. That's something we just have to address. Now, that's kind of going on from where we start to see him talk about the captains, but as well as just not really knowing the players just yet. And I think that's another thing that we have to really take into mindset, that Marco Sturm really has not met these players yet, or too many of them. And I think one thing that we're going to jump into later here in this video, some things that Don Sweeney came out and said about Marco Sturm while the hiring process was going on through this team. But let me jump back very quickly here to Jeremy Swayman. He has certainly been a player that we know is good. We know he can be better. I think that's one thing that, last year, I remember for the streams, for those who were in the streams, for those who were watching the videos, it hurt to watch Bruins games. Let's be honest. I tried to sugarcoat it a bit there, but there's no way of sugarcoating it. Jeremy Swayman going from what we had seen in from 22, 23, 23, 24 to this upcoming, or this most recent year in 24, 25, the difference is significant, and it is not acceptable at all. But I think that all kind of comes down as well, what I said about Jeremy Swayman having that start of the season wrong. But I do like what we saw here from Marco Sturm. Now, going back to the captain side of things, we do have another quote from him here on this topic, and he can kind of continue to say, I don't really know. I think if you're a Boston Bruin, it's a big deal. I'm a coach. I'm not going to say I'm not going to make that decision alone. I don't want to. Again, it's the Boston Bruins. It's a big deal. So that's something we're going to talk about it, but we're going to have to agree with that. This is the right guy, and we will, but I don't know when. So kind of, I won't say finishing it off, but really putting an end to this quote, kind of going over. So, we're planning on it. We still have the mindset. We still want to make sure that we're going to have a captain, but not counting out the factor that they may not. They have to have the right guy. They want to make sure it's the right decision. And we kind of spoke about this just a very, very little bit after Brad Marchand got traded, that it could be maybe a David Pastrnak, a Charlie McAvoy. Those are really the names that we're kind of expected. There are a few more that could be options. They could be sprinkled in there, but those two really seem to be leading the candidacy here for this Boston Bruins team. And, I think it's a matter of time until we just see them get to learn about Marco Sturm start to learn about them, and then we'll really get to an idea here. But I think there should be no rush for the Bruins to get this done, as soon as possible. And I know points don't really dictate anything here for your captain or whatnot, but when we do look at this year's team, obviously there was not very many people who were being a big player on the ice. Apart from David Pastrnak and Morgan Geekie, after that, Elias Lindholm, who we thought didn't play great for the entirety of the season. Pavel Zacha, who took a step up when needed to, but once again, didn't really start off hot. Casey Mittelstadt, who didn't even really score that much on the Bruins when it came down to it after being acquired at the trade deadline. And Mason Lohrei, your rookie defenseman, being there at the number 6 slot. I mean, it goes to show the team wasn't great, but the fact that Marco Sturm, he's not going to look at this. He's not going to look at your point total. He's not going to judge your captain off that. I think it's the smartest decision to make as we move towards the idea and really who it may be when they make a decision. And on another note, I kind of want to pop this up before we go into Don Sweeney's quotes here in a second. I want to pull up this. Now, Puckpedia added a new list, or a new kind of part to their graphic here, which shows the average age of teams in the NHL due to popular demand. So thank you, Puckpedia, for adding that. And when we take a look at that, the Bruins are 7th youngest team in the NHL. Now, you had said that at the beginning of last season, that number would have been drastically higher. And I think that the fact that they sold here at the deadline goes to show how much younger they actually made the team, rather than kind of just looking at the players who left, who got added. And it goes to show that among some of these teams here right now, of course, the Montreal Canadiens, very young team, still very, very good, which sucks for us. But going back through this list, I don't really see any of these teams being as good as Boston are right now. And I know we're not great, but this is a good sign for the Bruins being as young as they are, but also being as ready to make the playoffs as they have been the past few seasons. Getting to that point, again, is going to be another big thing. So let me know what you think about that. That's just kind of an interesting little topic there to throw on top of it. But we have to jump into Don Sweeney's quotes now. He had a few interesting things about the decision-making for Marco Sturm, which also kind of implies some very interesting looks as we head towards this offseason and get into the depth of it. And he says, during the process, I did not run any particular name or style by our players. I think our players are innately want to be coached. They want to be an understanding, or they want to have an understanding, of how they're going to be coached, and to value the same things we organizationally value: communication, respect, and culture. I wasn't looking for validation from our players in any way, shape, or form from deciding who was the coach was going to be. I want them to understand that Marco's in charge, and we think we picked a very good head coach, and we're going to really go to work. And this is a good sign, of course. It's a lot of interesting kind of ideas there, and a lot of people really didn't like the idea. The fact that they didn't choose Marco Sturm or didn't make Marco Sturm be known to the players beforehand. But the fact that Don Sweeney came out, was willing to say this. He did get a lot of flack for it, but I'm not the biggest hater of it. And you may kind of have come at me in the comments for that, but the fact that you want to run this by your players sometimes kind of makes you think in the wrong mindset. A player may want something that he wants rather than the rest of the team, but the fact that they knew Marco Sturm was the best option for this Bruin team due to the development that's going to be coming from these younger players, but also due to how, as I mentioned here, kind of in the last screenshot, how young this team has really gotten, I think it's a perfect fit. I think it was a very smart, yet controversial decision, I would say, from Don Sweeney. So I kind of want to, let me know what you think about that as well, because I'm kind of curious to see where the thoughts kind of coming from that, and if you guys kind of agreed with that idea. Because, we don't really see that too much in today's NHL game anymore. But another thing that I didn't touch on in the last few videos when I kind of went over the announcement of Marco Sturm is a very interesting thing that Don Sweeney had said in the press conference. So this is now 2 days old at this point, I believe, or yesterday. I can't remember when the press conference was. There's so much news going on. But let me go and look at this. After talking with the 14 candidates, General Manager Don Sweeney landed on Marco Sturm. 14 candidates went through this coaching system. And I think this is a lot, well, obviously, I don't think, it is a lot more than, at least I've here on the channel kind of gone through. I think I've had maybe 7, 8 that I went through on the channel, but 14 is a very, very interesting number when it comes down to it, because, who are they? Who could it have been? We have the NHL ones now. We have Mitch Love, Jay Leach, Joe Sacco, Misha Donskov, Marco Sturm, Mark Savard. That right there is 6. There's been a few other that I've spoken about, but at the end of the day, that's about double what we were going. So the Bruins think they found their guy. If they went through a process of 14, got to where they are now, things make some sense. So let me know what you think about that as well. I just wanted to touch on a few Don Sweeney things here at the end of the video, but the main thing is, let me know what you think in the comments below about Marco Sturm somewhat calling out Jeremy Swayman and, kind of going over the captain side of things here, what their plan is for that. But that is all I have in this video. If you guys did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But I am signing out. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.